Well, thanks, guys. Hi, everyone. This is Bill Lyon speaking. Most of you may already know me since I've been the chairman of the users group here in the Rockies for a good while now. But I'm also a long-standing geologist and longtime geologist and a geophysical interpreter in the industry, and I've been doing that for quite a while, about 38 years. I've been with a number of companies, both large and small, and currently I'm doing consulting work. And I'm joined today in making this presentation by Julia Caldero-Baird, whom I've known for quite a while. She's also a very experienced development geologist and been with many companies and is now also a consultant who has worked quite a bit in petrophysics and integration of petrophysics and geology into other disciplines, particularly into completions work that she does with engineers. So due to coronavirus, we're going to be making this presentation today completely online and from different locations. All of us are located in different spots. So kind of a new thing for the users group, and hopefully we can pull this off without too many glitches today. And keep you all pretty well entertained and informed in the meantime. So this is an overview of the presentation, and I'll start with a number of introductory remarks here, and then following that, Christina Viteri is going to be talking about the GeoGraphix website a little bit and some of the resources available there, including training resources. We've got a bit of change going on there, and so you'll be quite interested in what's evolving and developing there to look at. And then Julia will discuss the main topic to start with, the user survey results from the survey that we sent out a little while ago, and discuss some of its points so far, and also the fact that that survey remains open because we still want to gather feedback for a while on that. So she'll talk about that a little bit too. And then the both of us will work through kind of a discussion of the key trends that we're seeing from both the survey results and the comments, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. I always like to start off each user group by restating, that this is a group that's run by the users. It's really not run by GeoGraphix, and it's for the benefit of all the users of the software. And our main purpose and mission that I like to really kind of go over every time is that it's to help our members be more efficient and more effective in their job and better using the software so that they can be better at their job. And really even to be better geoscientists overall. And we're doing all this by sort of keeping our eye on several main points, and that is to advise users of important enhancements that might be changing and affecting their daily work, keeping them current and at the forefront of productivity. Of course, we're very interested in transferring technology and sharing our best practices, and collecting and transmitting feedback and sending those ideas back to GeoGraphix for development. That's one of our major targets too. And then, of course, to answer your questions, identify any problems, or request specific action from GeoGraphix. Today, we're really focusing on that second to last bullet, which is the collect and transmit feedback. We got quite a bit from working with the survey answers that y'all have provided us, and I think you'll be real interested to see what has been developing from those. Also, the user group meeting is evolving to sort of increase access overall. I mean, we used to run this thing basically as an in-person meeting, and we still think that that's good, but we're also evolving it so that we make sure that we increase people's access. So the online virtual simulcast, like we're doing today, will be added point forward on all of the future user groups, even if we are able to return to having them as an in-person live thing. We'll also sort of simulcast it just like this that we're doing today, with the ability to ask some live questions and so forth. And then as a future thing that we might put in, you've probably seen those broadcasts where people, who ask questions sort of live as they're going along in like a text type question, and those things pop up during the broadcast. And those might be questions, they might be comments, they might even be comments from us, like, do you guys actually do this? As we're going along type of thing, talking about a particular topic. So those things are coming in future user group meetings, and probably we're going to pick up the frequency of the user group meetings a bit, especially since it's afforded by this methodology. So we have a number of key attendees from LMKR GVERSE GeoGraphix with us today. Scott, who's the Vice President of Product Management, is on the line. And Fred, who many of you all know, Senior Product Manager of Geology, is on. Hamid, I think he's on there, is the Product Architect for Geophysics, and really great stuff that him and Mumtaz, the next person in the list, have been doing there. Mumtaz is the Director of Product Development Delivery, and Andrew may be on the line too. He's a team lead for customer support. Pete is your lovable Senior Account Executive for the Eastern U.S. and Rockies and MidCon. So any questions about your software or software that you need, he's your guy to talk to. And then Christina is the marketing exec for North and South America. And she's going to be talking here in just a moment about the training and web aspects that I was just talking about, referring to. But, the main thing is that I want you to know that all these folks have joined today to ensure that they hear your discussion and your comments, also to see the results of this survey, and, to help provide more depth and explanation of issues that might get identified, development direction and that kind of thing, and to answer directly any questions that you might have. But with that, let's shift it over to Christina for a moment. She's going to be talking about some of the resources available on the website for GeoGraphix and the training.
Thank you very much, Bill. So I want to take this opportunity to walk you through our website and the tools available that can be used for your own benefit. The first tool that we have available, for example, is webinars. We host webinars on a weekly basis. Usually they take place on Wednesdays. The topics that come from our webinars are common questions that we receive from our clients, also specific workflows, or a sneak peeks of what's coming on our next release. So if you happen to miss any of those webinars, feel free to click on webinars and then go to what's new. You'll click no thanks on the pop-up and you will be able to see all the latest webinars that have been taking place. I encourage you all to scroll through this page since we have several topics that are very valuable and would be very beneficial for you all. Also, if you would notice, you can scroll back and see that we have organized the webinars according to the different tools available. So for example, we have geology, geophysics, geomodeling, petrophysics, mapping visualization, field planning, and so much more. When you go in and you click on support portal, it'll ask you to log in. I have already logged in. You can go to our trainings tab. Once you click here, you will notice that there's a new tab available and it's called training collaterals. It's really exciting to announce this, that now our training manuals are available online. You'll see a list of all the trainings that we have available, and you can take a look to the manuals. They are completely free, so you can start to browse through these. They are very friendly, and you can brush up on your skills and get some training by yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask any of our support group. They will be more than happy to assist you. If you go to training again, you will click on available trainings, and it is of my pleasure to announce that due to social distancing, we have now launched our trainings online. So here are all the topics of the upcoming trainings that we have scheduled for June and July. So for example, our first training taking place online will be setting up projects. You'll see that the date that this training will be happening is on June 24th. If you would like to see what is this training all about, feel free to click on course outline, and you'll see the description, the objectives, what are the recommended prerequisites, and so much more information. If you are interested, go ahead and register yourself. Like I said, these trainings are completely free, so it's a $0 price. The only thing is that we only have 6 seats available. So I encourage you all to go into our trainings portal, see what training is of your interest, and go ahead and register. We also have on the support portal our Knowledge Center. So here we have the section of white papers, how-to tips and tricks. So all of these sections are very valuable. As you may see, everything is organized by the different modules that we have. So this is another section that would be great to use for your own benefit. So last but not least, let's turn our attention to our LinkedIn group. We have a private group for GeoGraphix user group, Denver Rockies users. So you can search on LinkedIn with this name, and it'll come up this private group. Basically here we have everything that is coming up for this group. So you will stay up to date on events, webinars, a special service that we send to our clients, and also you will be able to interact with any other customers. So this is a great place to create discussion. If you have like a special workflow that you use and you think it's going to be valuable for other customers, feel free to drop in here as a discussion. And like I said, it's a great place to interact with everybody else. So besides staying up to date, it's a great place to build up relationships and a great place for networking. So thank you very much. That's it from my side, and I'm going to turn it back to Bill.
Okay, thank you, Christina. And thanks, Christina. And you know, we'll move on here to the main topic for the day, which is discussing the results from the user survey. I definitely hope you guys can take advantage, though, of the things that Christina was talking about. There's quite a bit of, you know, recorded webinars out there on using GeoGraphix now. They're quite helpful, and that training stuff being available to you now online is just outstanding. No more travel to have to go do that. And then that LinkedIn forum. I mean, that's a good forum for us to communicate. If you have certain problems or questions, definitely put it out there, and you know, some experienced users will undoubtedly answer you back. Both myself and Julia are out there on the LinkedIn as well. So yeah, that's a very good thing to use. So our main topic today is the results of the survey, and Julia will be discussing the first part of this, and then we'll move on to both of us handling some of the trends and feedback information from the survey. So Julia, you have it. If you can take control from your spot.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. Yes, I'm just going to talk through a little bit about what we saw from the results from our user survey. the reason we wanted to do the user survey was because it's been a while since we really got a sense for the makeup of our Rockies users group. And so we wanted to understand what everyone's needs are and their primary direction of where they are in their job. We also always use these forums to provide feedback to GeoGraphix. And so we can look through the user survey feedback and kind of direct and prioritize what the GeoGraphix development group should focus on. But we also wanted to tune our user group future topics to what specifically people are mainly interested in. And this particular thing provides a vehicle to begin digging down deeper into topics that people are interested in and maybe provide better information. And then we'll probably end up doing some more specific surveys in the future, depending on how the results of this ultimately come in. Which leads me to say that this the survey is open still. So if you haven't taken it, please do. It only takes a few minutes. But I can assure you that everybody at GeoGraphix is going through these results and looking at them, and they're learning a lot from them. So it's very valuable. And then us as the chairman of the users groups are using that to kind of inform what our future topics will be, which Bill will talk about in a little bit more. So let's see. There we go. All right. I'll just tell you, I'll just go quickly through the categorical results of what we saw, the general makeup of our group, general observations, and then just primary themes. Bill and I will tag team on to go through and talk about what everyone was saying mainly. So the respondent profile, this is just kind of interesting, the demographics. We had 65% of our respondents with more than 20 years of experience in the industry, and you can see on this graph, we actually have more than 50% with more than 30 years experience. And then in terms of years using GeoGraphix, we had a huge amount of very sophisticated, very long-term users for GeoGraphix. So you can see from this graph that the majority of our users have been using GeoGraphix for more than 10 years. We asked about company profile just out of interest. What we found was 60% of the respondents were self-employed. That might just be a sign of the times. And then we had mostly small independents and private equity type folks. I asked about what your main job focus is, but this was a mix, and there were very few respondents that had singular job focus. Most people did kind of a smattering of everything. And we didn't get very many. We asked about the role. I broke out the responses into kind of your primary role. We didn't get a lot of folks who identified themselves as geotechs, and I'm just kind of curious if we just haven't gotten those responses in yet. But I would like to see more responses to see if maybe that's where our actual makeup of our user group really is right now. And then as far as geographical area, it was I didn't put a graphic for this. It was mostly the entire U.S. and kind of focus on Mid-Com, some Rockies, but kind of a smattering across the lower U.S. And then we asked the question about remote work, right? Because, the thing was we sent the survey out right in the middle of COVID, the lockdown. But we wanted to know before that, because GeoGraphix is doing a lot to make it easier to work remotely. So we wanted to see sort of what people did primarily. So prior to lockdown, 60% of people spent about a fifth of their time working remotely. So it is still kind of a big thing. And then of course now during COVID, most of the respondents said that they're working most of their time from home, as you'd expect. We asked about collaboration integration. So how much of your time is spent collaborating with folks that aren't that are outside of GeoGraphix? They're using systems outside of GeoGraphix, and about 80% of people are trying to integrate outside of GeoGraphix. And we asked about best of breed versus all inclusive. Do you go around finding the best software for your particular need, or are you all inclusive within GeoGraphix? And about 70% consider themselves best of breed. And we asked, well, what other softwares are you using? ArcGIS and Spotfire by far were the ones that, which is why they have the asterisk. They were by far the ones that had the most outside users. Spotfire is going to be an interesting one because you'll see how GeoGraphix is working to integrate that well into the software. There were some people who went outside to completely different platforms, and then just kind of a smattering of other types of software that folks are using outside of GeoGraphix. So this is just a single graphic of, we asked 3 questions on there about individual functions. And so what we asked is your time spent, what's your general impression of how GeoGraphix is doing, and where would you like GeoGraphix to focus? And so we just kind of broke it out into job functions. So this wasn't specifically modules in GeoGraphix, it was what you do. And so what we found was, you know, certain job functions had, you know, kind of a more of a modality than this is showing, because this is just an average of the 1 through 5, right? So for example, geophysics and petrophysics, you tended to get people who either were mainly working in one of those 2 things or not at all. But what we did find on this data set, just in this particular way of looking at it just on averages, is that there were some things that kind of popped out. The first thing is the world of 3D visualization, geocellular modeling, framework modeling, that kind of thing. People weren't doing as much work in there, but there seemed to be a huge interest in GeoGraphix moving towards that development. We also, and Bill's going to talk about this in a little bit, we also are going to focus on that in terms of not only what we're going to talk about in our future topics, but education too. You know, more of an educational aspect of what to do in these modules or this type of geologic work. The other thing that we saw was data analytics, data cleanup. The whole world is moving to that right now. And what we saw was folks who maybe didn't do as much of their work and spend as much of their time in that, but they really want GeoGraphix to focus on that. And in terms of the commentary, we got a lot of comments on that, which Bill will talk about too. And then ease of use, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but we will go into that because that was a very hot topic in responses. So now we're just going to address individual themes that we heard from respondents. The first one was best of breed integration to and from outside software is problematic. So in other words, just exporting and importing and doing it more easily and more fluidly is something that people ask a lot about. Can we improve that functionality? And you know, a general observation is it seems that most folks would like to be fully integrated within GeoGraphix if it was possible. So the next thing was petrophysics. Responses were bimodal. So again, either you're in or you're out. People, you know, talked about the organization of logs, and log data is not intuitive and it doesn't provide for user-preferred organization of log data. And then petrophysical phases analysis workflows don't exist really within petrophysics, especially ones that can be tied to inversion modeling. And then completions workflows not being utilized currently, but responders want GeoGraphix to focus more. So there weren't a lot of people who said, yeah, I work a lot with completions, and this is a topic that I'm interested in. And really what we need to focus on is a lot more, you know, we need to be more interactive in terms of our post-well analysis and data collection, and we need to be able to present the information so that we can you know, more successfully dialogue with our counterparts in engineering and everything. And right now it's sort of in its infancy, so more work to making that more easy, and that goes back into import and export needs to be something that GeoGraphix focuses on. And I believe, yeah, this next slide is Bill. So I'm going to turn this back over to Bill.
Yeah, and I'll pick up here talking about geophysics, but I did want to just step back and reinforce something that Julia was talking about, and that is that we really want to encourage you to, you know, take this survey if you haven't done it yet, because it really does have a big impact on where we're going to go kind of in the future with things here. You know, I know that probably with a lot of the notifications about this meeting, the survey button to take the survey was on those, but if, you know, that stuff went into junk or something, your junk folders along with it went the button to click the survey. So if you happen to be on and didn't get the message from there, go back and try to find that original, you know, meeting notification, because that survey button is on there. And also it's out there on the LinkedIn page for GeoGraphix as well. So there's a couple of different places where you can go, and we really need more results off of it. We've got quite a few, but we still need as much as we possibly can because it's going to have a big impact on things. Users of geophysics on here, you know, the survey results showed really that there's not a lot of use in geophysics overall yet. As Julia mentioned, there are some sort of specific specialist users of geophysics, but we're trying to see that broaden overall if we could. But regardless of that, users have a good impression overall of GVERSE geophysics, and that's pretty strong contrast into the past, where people thought, you know, GVERSE geophysics, or what used to be called size vision, was a real laggard in the industry compared to something like Kingdom. But it's not that way now, and users are developing a good impression, but they still want, you know, development focus in this area, as can be kind of seen from the height of the blue bar there with respect to the impression. A major focus area of GeoGraphix development, you know, has been in this geophysics area over the last few cycles, and really a lot has been done in there, and that will continue. It really has come up now to where it's on a par with Kingdom, really, and in some areas is probably even a bit better than Kingdom. So if you haven't had a chance to go look, you should look, especially after this next release of the software. But integration of the geophysics module with the rest of GeoGraphix, though it's improving now, it's still, from the responses that we're seeing, we're finding that more needs to be done there. We'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide. But overall, I mean, you know, it's really come up a lot, and you'll be very interested to see what's coming out as a result of this next release, because over the last couple, they have really brought it up a lot, and including this one. And it's going to be a major topic at our next user group meeting, which will be in mid-July, which will talk more in depth about GVERSE geophysics and several of the other big things that are happening in GeoGraphix. Of course, probably one of the most consistent themes in the survey responses was, you know, this thought around this thought around improving the cross-platform data integration over all the modules of GeoGraphix. You know, it's been a long-standing issue that we've had with GeoGraphix, that if you're in one module, you can't necessarily always get to all the data that's used, you know, or generated out of another module, even if that's all residing in the same database. And, you know, long-standing attendees to this user group meeting will remember, even we had a big argument a bunch of years ago that happened during one of the user group meetings, where the point was being emphatically made that users could not get to all the data, you know, in the database from any particular module. So it's really been a long-standing hot button issue. GeoGraphix is doing a lot to try to address that, but you know, it is one of the areas that, as users, we got to keep driving home that point and keep them developing and working on that particular issue. Some of the comments that we got out of the survey reflect that pretty forthrightly. You know, this first comment is good because it's one of the things that Julia was referring to, and that is difficulty in plotting point data in the 3D wellbore in the geomodeling 3D viewer. That just sort of underscores what we're talking about here. Whatever information that you know, you want to be able to apply in that wellbore, let's say completion information, sometimes you can't get to it all and display that in the geomodeling package and how that relates to not only your surfaces, but also maybe the seismic lines that you're showing along those surfaces. We got another comment. The connection of geophysics data to the rest of the modules is very poor. As I mentioned, they're working quite a bit on geophysics. They're putting in a lot of new things like geobodies, which is mentioned in the next comment, which is really great over there. But like this next comment says, there's currently no ability to take that data any further for analysis, populating it in with various attributes and then extracting that data along the wellbores into Wellbase or another module or other software if you need to. So that's a very insightful comment, shows where we still have some, barriers and roadblocks to being able to use information created or worked with in one part of the software in another part of the software. So really important to keep making that available as some of these comments keep pointing to. The last comment, which is along those lines, is about log M integration. And I don't know whether many of you are log M users, but it used to be that log M was kind of the standard in geophysics for creating synthetics and that kind of thing, but also geophysical modeling. And it's long been sitting out there, kind of has its own database, and not too seamless with its workflows in the rest of GeoGraphix. Yeah, it was sort of emblematic of our problem here, but I'll say this, that in this upcoming release of GeoGraphix, they have really integrated that really nicely. And so you'll see good examples there of how they're trying to do this cross-platform integration. And that, once again, will be a topic as part of the July user group. So there was a pretty good emphasis, too, on focusing on the core of GeoGraphix and still not ignoring that. This is another one of those very consistent themes. It's like really nice to see all this new development and stuff going on in the software, but, people don't want the developers to sort of go to sleep on the fact that some parts of the older parts of GeoGraphix still need work, too. So this first comment is right on target with that. Spend a little bit more time polishing the existing programs. Many parts do a great job, but only 90% of the job. The other 10% requires an inordinate amount of time to finish that job, which detracts from the value of the good 90%. So, I think that's a really great comment. You can't, I'm sure all of our users have hit those points where it's like, God darn, it just didn't go that last step. But, they're working on those things. Keep working on Geo Atlas and Wellbase, a couple of the core tools. This is a great comment. The query tool module is the worst search tool I've ever used. Has zero intuitiveness and makes performing simple queries much more difficult or even impossible. I think there's probably a lot of users out there that can relate to that. If you've ever used the query module tool, and just as a comment from me, the user group had a big emphasis on issues around Query Builder a couple years ago, and not a whole lot got done with that. GeoGraphix was kind of going to this rapid filtering kind of thing in each of the modules, but that's kind of currently pretty inadequate compared to what Query Builder kind of can do. So GeoGraphix is considering some other ways of doing that, and we need to give them a lot of feedback on that one. It's one of the most important capabilities any software really needs to have, and so we need to keep feeding that back. And a final comment, continue the emphasis on horizontal well capabilities on all applications. GeoGraphix was not originally built for horizontal wells, and really not any of the geo applications were really built for that. So there's always some issues and roadblocks for highly deviated and horizontal wells, but horizontal wells are really where much of our industry is right now. So the software continues need to be tuned around horizontal workflows. At this point, Scott, you may have a comment or two to throw in on a couple of these things. But if not, I can keep going on to the next slide.
No, I'll just say a few words really quick. We are working on Geo Atlas and Wellbase. There has been a few new very nice features in the 2019-3 release that's coming up in both those applications around data cleanup and some features in Geo Atlas where you can now, for instance, we have a locator tool that works. We built a locator tool that works sort of like the tool in ArcMap. So we are focusing on it, but we understand that the focus needs to continue, and we do have a group working on it. Query Builder, people love it or hate it. A lot of people don't really like it. We are looking at some different ways of doing querying, whether we take the rapid filtering tools that we've actually built and expand on those, or just find new ways to do it. But yeah, it's going to be a focus because, let's face it, it's just one of those core workflows where before you do anything in any geo application, you need to be able to work with a specific set of wells, and that specific set of wells needs to have the the query needs to be queried and has to have the parameters that you want. Other than that, we do have in the geomodeling more and more of the horizontal well capabilities. And in the geophysics, you can now create your synthetics on deviated wells. So that is a log-m feature that we went ahead and put in there. So we sort of understand that, well, we don't sort of understand, we definitely do understand that, let's face it, horizontal wells are probably 80% of what most folks do. So, and most folks drill. So yes, we are working on it, but we want your feedback, and any feedback that you have will not be ignored. So thank you, Bill.
Yeah, sure. Continuing this discussion of themes or trends identified, geocellular modeling was an interesting topic. It's not that it got so many individual comments per se, but if you kind of look at the results of what the survey was saying about geocellular modeling, you can see that even though people don't really use it a lot, as what they're saying here is that their impression of it in GeoGraphix is good, and they want GeoGraphix to focus on it a lot. So it was a little bit of a weird kind of set of responses we did get, because there is no 3D geocellular modeling in the software right now. So this could be interpreted as people responding because they do their geocellular work outside of GeoGraphix, but they really want to see that developed inside of GeoGraphix. So, and then there might be a certain amount of situations where people are kind of mixing that up with framework surface geomodeling, which is in the software, right, and is a pretty robust tool within GeoGraphix. Of course, sort of the major difference is that in framework geomodeling, you're doing things in 3D, but you're modeling surfaces in 3D, whether those are horizons or faults. And then that is essentially building the framework that within you would use in geocellular modeling. And of course, geocellular modeling is really in the industry currently the primary way to populate rock properties and geomechanical characteristics and the like throughout a volumetric Earth model, and then use that to sort of design things like frac jobs and monitor frac performance, and the resulting production that might come and production predictions you might make from, let's say, those propagated rock properties throughout the model. So those surfaces that are there that are structural framework, of course, get this geocells that populate the whole volume in between those surfaces. And, you know, that's really an important step forward, we feel. And of course, a lot of the users seem to be indicating that they want GeoGraphix to work on that. But GeoGraphix, of course, needs to think about how they're allocating their resources and their funds. So they really need feedback from us quite a bit on developing the geocellular model capability. And of course, one of their questions is whether to do it or not, you know, because there's other softwares out there that do it, and people seem to have developed a liking for those. But this would allow you to do it right within the GeoGraphix software, and it certainly would be a lot more useful if it were there. You know, one of the things that we think might be a cause of relatively slow uptake in the framework surface geomodeling is the fact that people want to take it over to the geocellular modeling phase. But right now it's kind of a dead end, you know, and people don't want to go through all that work to build these surfaces and then really just not, you know, carry that forward over into there. So there might be a relationship there. Thing is there's lots of questions that surround, you know, geocellular modeling within GeoGraphix and even the need for it. So this probably is one of those areas where we need to focus, you know, additional user group meetings, maybe even develop focus group within our user group of people that are really interested in seeing this go forward, so they can kind of give the feedback to GeoGraphix about what they'd like to see developed. Data analytics is another one of those areas where, you know, people don't necessarily spend a ton of time in doing it in GeoGraphix because there really isn't a heck of a lot of tools in there now specifically for it. There are some sort of rudimentary graphing tools and that you can use to develop relationships, but it's not like the software has been tuned up to do that kind of work. And so, you know, users aren't you know, saying they're in there doing that a lot, but you can see that they really want GeoGraphix to focus on this thing from the results of the survey responses. And some of these quotes that you see in here really hit it right on. I'd like to see a built-in multivariate statistic analysis tool. In conjunction with this, a better way to visualize and manipulate the data generated by GeoGraphix would be very powerful. They go on to suggest that, you know, they like Spotfire a lot, and perhaps a plug-in to Spotfire would be possible. Scott, I think you have something to say about that, right?
You're a great straight man there, Bill. Last year, we went ahead and looked at where the industry was going, and it was pretty obvious even then that data analytics was going to become a big part of what people were doing. So we did develop a Spotfire plugin, and we'll talk more about that in the July user group meeting and what that works. But it allows you to very quickly connect to Spotfire from the Wellbase database and do your analytics type workflows in Spotfire with GeoGraphix data. It also provides some interaction and interoperability between Spotfire and GeoGraphix, and you can create filters, for instance, Wellbase filters in Spotfire. And, you know, that's another one of the ways where we're looking at, you know, how do we expand our querying and filtering capability, because Spotfire does have those tools, and if we could make, for instance, queries directly from Spotfire, maybe that would be better in some cases. Not everybody uses Spotfire, but we're also looking into expanding this to Power BI over time. So we'll talk about it, Bill, in the July user group meeting. But yes, we certainly understand, and we spent quite a bit of time trying to get some of these tools into the software.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Scott. That's really good news. And I'd throw in, remember about the cross-platform integration. Don't forget that we want to be able to use geophysical data over in that those analytical tools too. in combination with the geological data.
Right, right.
Another theme that popped up that was sort of interest is the ease of use theme, and it indicates maybe a need to dig deeper into this topic. Of course, you know, we really only asked this question for what your impression was overall, whether GeoGraphix was an industry leader or not in ease of use, and whether GeoGraphix needs to, you know, focus on it. And it was sort of interesting what we got. The survey responses seem to convey a bit of a mixed message here. There's the impression is overall that, you know, GeoGraphix is kind of an industry leader in ease of use, but that's really pretty much contrary to what a lot of people have previously said about it. So it was a little bit, you know, kind of put a question mark in my head there a little bit about the responses, but it could indicate that things have been getting much better, you know, with GeoGraphix usability. Obviously, though, the high blue bar indicates that people still want GeoGraphix to keep working on it. But, you know, we may have done kind of a poor job in designing this question, kind of came up a little bit short on it maybe. We probably should have done this on a per module basis. I mean, some modules do work really great and they are easy and intuitive, but others maybe not so much. And if you spend most of your time in one that's easy, you know, I noticed quite a few users, for example, spent most of their time over in working in mapping, you know, in Geo Atlas and that sort of thing. And if you spend most of your time over there and find it pretty easy, your impression might be that the whole of the software is just as easy to function in. And then there's a demographics factor available too, about that is a factor in here, and that is that, as Julia pointed out, we didn't have a lot of inexperienced users answering the survey, so it's a little hard to gauge. I mean, if you're an experienced user, you're probably finding it pretty easy to do the work. And you know, the younger users out there are kind of also used to software idiosyncrasies. I mean, you know, there's a lot of game players and everything out there that, you know, now in younger crowd that are just kind of accepting of the fact that maybe software doesn't work perfectly smoothly all the time. We're not really sure, but once again, this is an area where we may need to dig deeper into this topic in later surveys. Another thing that we got a lot of comments was that the direction of future GeoGraphix development needs clarifying for users, maybe in certain areas, maybe in other respects overall. This comment number 1, for example, is quite reflective of that. I'm not sure where GeoGraphix is going. I do go to user meetings, but I don't come away with any specific on any front. Maybe I need to look this up in the news on the website. Well, I think, you know, I mean, that's a good overall expression of things. We do try to do in the user group a lot of informational things, but you know, I mean, we're reading the message. It's loud and clear here that we're not always getting our users the information they need about where GeoGraphix is going on things. And so more direction on data analytics and geocellular modeling, you know, for example, or mentioned a couple of times, continued integration, that kind of stuff. People want to know about this stuff. And so, you know, a lot of next month's thing will be aimed at that. People even want to know the future direction of Wellbase and Geo Atlas and whether those things are going to be 64-bit versions. There's more news coming up on that too. You know, just a comment from me, I hear a lot of user comments about the fact that there's not a real clear distinction between what is GeoGraphix and what is GVERSE, and why there's even 2 of those things, and is one taking over the other. I mean, I know a lot of users are not real clear on what that's all about and what the long-term plan is there. Once again, I'll flip back to Scott maybe for a couple of comments on on some of these points that are coming out here. We want to be sure that we're getting clearer communication to the users about what the direction of development is.
Yeah, and I think, Bill, that some of the virtual and online sort of user group meetings can get the information to a larger number of our users. So I think that'll help somewhat. To look at some of these questions, Wellbase actually will be 64-bit in the release next month. So we'll talk a little bit about that. ISOMAP, we're trying to get it to 64-bit also. So there is work being done on that front, but I do hear fairly loud and clear that people want to know, and maybe it's not that we don't quite give it to them, but maybe we don't release the information in a way that folks really want to consume it. And we certainly have release notes, and we have stuff on the website and white papers about what's going on. But I think the user groups and face-to-face contact, or well, virtual contact, is a good way to do it also. So I think, Bill, we're probably going to try to get more of that information out to our customers that way in the future.
Okay, sounds really good. Okay, so that sort of brings us to the conclusion or the end of, our review of the survey results that we got. Once again, want to encourage everybody, if you haven't taken it, please go out there. You can see that GeoGraphix is really listening, so go take that survey. We'll hold that open for, several more weeks probably. And then when we have our meeting next, it'll be in mid-July. And we will, as part of that, briefly update the survey's results to everybody. And if there's any new trends sort of popping up from additional response, we'll kind of go over that a little bit. But the main thing, or the main, focus of next user group meeting will be the highlights of the next release of GeoGraphix that's coming out, and its release date is around July 1st. I think they're still pretty much on track for something about that time frame. So it'll be a very timely meeting to discuss a lot of the really new capability that's coming out. I've sort of previewed that, and I can tell all y'all that it's labeled as like 2019.4, I guess, or something, but it is really much more like a full-blown big release, because so much new functionality is coming in it, and some really great features that a lot of us have been asking for. So at this point, if there's any users that have typed in questions or anything, Christina, we'll try to answer those directly, or if anybody wants to ask something live, I think we have that capability. But are there anything that's come in?
Bill, this is Fred. I have a question for the user group I'd like them to consider.
Yep.
Is we currently have two cross sections. We have X section and we have a cross section in our geomodeling, and I'd just like to get some comments or thoughts about the direction we need to go. Do we need to bring those two things together? It's kind of hard to maintain two of them with trying to maintain our resource allocation most efficiently. So I would just like to know what people think about having two cross sections or not having two cross sections. Bring them together or keep them apart.
Okay. What I think we'll do is, if nobody's able to make a live comment right now, I think what we'll do is we'll post that as a question out to the user group, maybe through LinkedIn or maybe through emails. I'm not exactly sure what's the most effective, probably both, about that exact question.
The Bachelor of Physics team is focused on bringing new capabilities. I noticed one thing in there was they mentioned lack of faces. Well, we are currently working on a new cross-plot tool that we hope to have out by the end of the year that will actually do both manual and cluster analysis, doing k-means type of cluster analysis for electrofacies. So we are working in that area. We're also in the 2019.3, as we'll talk about in the July user group meeting, we're also bringing out a number of new features in there that I think that will be very well accepted. So petrophysics is a focus, and we will continue to work on that. So any feedback from the group, and helping us hone in on the best use of our resources is greatly appreciated.
So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up, and we'll see you middle of next month. You can expect to see announcements coming out for that. It'll be really exciting to see all that new stuff. And then down the road, what we're thinking is we're going to try to make presentations on certain interests that the user group members have expressed that they want to see more detail about. So various people will probably make short presentations as part of this meeting going forward. Yep, thanks very much for attending.